This is Donkey D. How are you guys doing? Welcome back to another episode of Abandoned City. Even though this is already the 4th episode, the population of our town is still 0. So today we're going to build our first survivor camp, the kind you'd see in a zombie movie. And if you're watching this series for the first time, let me quickly give you a bit of background. Based on the video's feedback and comments, I'm building a post-apocalyptic city in Cities Skylines 2, which I'm calling Abandoned City. As for why this city was abandoned in the first place, we're going to uncover that mystery episode by episode. This city is currently called Malcolm, which was randomly generated when the game started. And after the last video, people have been suggesting that this town deserves a proper name. I don't know, I'm not exactly an expert when it comes to naming things. What do you guys think? Does this city really need a new name? And speaking of naming things, I have a membership plan. If you're willing to support me further, you can choose to subscribe to one of the 3 tiers: Survivor, Explorer, and Protector. For those at the Explorer and Protector levels, I'll be naming streets in your honor and your name will show up in the time-lapse as the city comes together. Also, for those who chose Survivor level, I'll be launching a brand new series either this week or next, and there will be even more surprises for you guys. On top of that, you'll have these awesome and unique loyalty badges next to your name in the comments, and you'll have access to my handwrite custom emojis as well. Anyway, let's get back to this abandoned town. Up until now, it appears that some sort of zombie virus has destroyed the city, throwing everything into chaos. Along with the outbreak, the local nuclear power plant suffered a reactor explosion, leading to widespread radiation leaks. The government claims that the zombie virus was responsible for the nuclear disaster, but not everyone is buying that story. More and more influencers are spreading the theory that this whole thing is a bunch of crap, it was only a cover-up, and the real threat isn't zombies at all. Sophia Leguber posted, quote, "There is no way the zombies did all of this. That's just what the government wants you to believe. It was obviously aliens, controlled by the lizards putting chemicals in our drinking water to mind control us. Don't fall for this so-called scientific reasoning. Search for the truth." More and more users have started using the hashtags #ThereWasNoApocalypse and I'm Not Crazy to support this movement. On the other hand, we cannot simply ignore the infected people either, especially since research on the virus is already being shared across social media. After all, the zombie virus has gone viral and Dr. Damien Sherlock posted, quote, "This deadly virus named Morturia Vera, or Morturia virus, meaning death virus in Latin, is what caused the zombie outbreak. At first, the infection isn't really noticeable, but after about 4 weeks, the virus triggers massive cognitive decline in the brain. Initially, the infected begin losing the ability to spell words correctly, followed by long periods of blackouts, and eventually they experience severe muscle cramps, excessive saliva production, and uncontrollable jaw movements with their mouths opening and closing involuntarily. Honestly, it sounds pretty believable to me, plus the timing matches up perfectly with the nuclear power plant accident. So for now, we'll go with this explanation, unless of course more solid and reliable evidence comes along to prove there really was an alien invasion. Until then, we'll stick with what we've got. Speaking of what we're building right now, it's actually the town's very first survivor camp. This camp used to be a local trailer park situated between the nuclear power station and the highway exit. Due to how close it is to the plant and the endless conspiracy theories that have circulated ever since the facility was built, this area has always been home to some, let's just say, interesting folks. You know, the type that didn't have many options. Land around here is cheap and living in a trailer park isn't exactly a dream come true. Most of them ended up here because it was affordable, not because it was part of some big plan. This trailer park happens to be right where the high voltage power lines from the nuclear plant run through. I've set up 2 collapsed power towers here, and one of them has fallen right across the road, and I'm guessing it could crush a car somehow. You know how it is when something falls or disaster strikes, it always seems to hit something with pinpoint accuracy. The second tower has fallen onto one of the mobile homes in the trailer park. I'm also planning to place a crashed helicopter here, one that crashed directly into the tower. And that's pretty much the basic story setting and layout of the trailer park, and it's soon to become our first survivor camp after the zombie outbreak. Next, we need to draw a boundary around the trailer park. Typically, a boundary like this would be a dense forest or some rivers. I mean, if we were playing on a map with lots of ocean, the island itself would serve as the perfect natural boundary. Or, let's say if we were in a mountainous region, we could use valleys or cliffs to create a clear edge. But in this flat, open terrain, we don't have many options to work with. Just use the big brush and paint some trees to get the job done. The tower here didn't just fall by accident. These kinds of towers are built to be incredibly sturdy. It was brought down with intent by the government as part of a much darker plan. Their goal was to block the road. And conveniently, the tower fell right onto a tanker carrying chemicals, causing a dangerous spill. This was all part of the plan. The authorities wanted exactly that. By contaminating the area, they could block off access and use the chemical leak as an excuse to quarantine the entire region. They were trying to prevent the World Health Organization from reaching the nuclear plant because the investigators were getting too close to discovering the truth, too close to the patient zero. These patient zero stories were spread by survivors who escaped the trailer park back then. While there's no way to verify it, it's the most convincing explanation. The fall of the second tower really was an accident. It was caused by one of the firefighting helicopters sent to help with the nuclear fires, but it crashed right here. It's more likely because during its flight to assist, the reactor had a second explosion. The shock wave from that blast could have brought the helicopter down. After this crash, people from the trailer park began to realize the urgency of the situation. They decided it was time to find a way to escape the area immediately. In fact, before this point, the camp had already been sealed off by the local residents themselves for a couple of weeks. They were closest to the plant and therefore closest to patient zero. Sensing danger before anyone else, the people at the camp banded together and locked down the entire area to keep the infected out. They fortified the main entrance with whatever they could find: trucks, abandoned trailers, oil barrels, fencing, anything to create a barrier. And there stood an old fire lookout tower, now repurposed as a watchtower that could providing a vantage point to spot any approaching threats. It wasn't just about keeping zombies out. In fact, preventing a zombie invasion wasn't all that difficult. I mean, zombies can't climb or use weapons, so as long as the barricades were properly set up, there wasn't much danger from them. Their main focus was on stopping the local police and military invasion. I mean, using the word invasion might be a little bit too much. The authorities mainly wanted to evacuate them to take over the camp and turn it into an outpost. But the survivors held their ground, knowing that if they left, they might never find another place as secure as this. Besides, if you were stuck in a place like that, there's no way you'd believe a damn thing the government says. And yeah, this is starting to sound more and more like the beginning of an RPG game. You know, usually at this point you'd be creating your character, and after that, you'd have the option to either help the camp or side with the police and so on. You know the deal. And the survivors at the camp quickly realized staying so close to the plant was just stupid. I mean, when the zombies showed up, they practically forgot there was a nuclear bomb nearby. They had to get out of there fast. And they did, so in the end, the camp was abandoned. And as for where the survivors ended up after leaving, well, I have no idea. At this very moment, I suddenly noticed there was a sim on the screen. You have no idea how shocked I was when I saw this little guy. I got goosebumps, like where the hell did he come from? No car just spawned out of nowhere, middle of freaking nowhere. And he just walked like nothing had even happened. It was so creepy, and what the heck is this? Wait, is that the helicopter which crashed about to take off again? From the dirt? Seriously? And damn it, the helicopter's blade is actually moving. Oh my god. Oh my god. Why the hell is this happening? This has completely ruined my plan. Now I have to come up with something else to crash here. A small passenger plane. There's gotta be something, right? I mean, I've already set up the whole crash scenario. And there's also a problem. Why would a passenger plane crash here? They usually fly at high altitudes, way above anything this explosion would affect. But yeah, this makes no sense to me, but maybe anything can happen, right? In the final part of today's video, we'll be building, how should I put it, the yard? I mean, this is a large courtyard that the survivors have enclosed using various vehicles where they store supplies, hold meetings, and keep an eye on the camp surroundings. The survivors go about their daily activities here, things like preparing meals, repairing their gear and weapons, tending to a small garden they've set up for fresh food, and maintaining the barricades. They also take shifts guarding the camp, patrolling the perimeter, and planning their next scavenging missions. In quieter moments, some might sit together, sharing stories, drinking together, and doing their best to maintain some sense of normal life in the middle of all the chaos. The camp's leader plays a critical role in making tough decisions under pressure, managing supplies, coordinating defense strategies, and keeping everyone united. A medic, or at least someone with basic medical training, is absolutely needed. They treat injuries, manage infections, and ensure that no one within the camp turns into a zombie. Skilled shooters are also essential, stationed in watchtowers to pick off zombies from a distance, or to monitor the movements of the authorities or the police, keeping an eye on any potential threats from outside. You know, there are so many things to do and so much stuff to build if you seriously consider what it would take to survive in a situation like this. But we won't get into too much detail today. After all, this camp gets abandoned in the end. If we get the chance in the future, we'll build other survivor camps. Like there's one suggestion from the comments earlier I really liked. The local police department, once finding out about this virus, set up a sanctuary for people to evacuate to. It was set up in a high-class area. They used construction fences to block off a fair amount of the area. The police made this the headquarters for themselves. They welcomed everyone with open arms, sending out small squads to search for survivors. You know, stories like this are also nice. Not all the police are bad guys. There are some good ones too, right? We might even see some survivor civilians wandering through the ruins, which could be pretty cool too. Anyway, that's all for today. I'll keep taking your suggestions from the comments. Thanks for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more. See you next time.